Hello and welcome to another of my painting tutorials. Thank you for your kind words on the last two. This one is one I painted for the recent Throne of Skulls tournament as part of the Fellowship of the Ring, and it's Aragorn with Anduril, the Flame of the West. He's an absolute monster in the game and a gorgeous model to paint. So let's get started with a black undercoat, and I've already base coated the base brown. Then I base coat his coat in Dark Angel's Green, or Caliban Green. For the boots I used a mix of black and scorched brown, or Rhinox hide. Next, his shirt, or jerkin I'll call it, in Doombull brown, or dark flesh. All of these layers, nice thin watery layers. Here I do a much darker mix of scorched brown and black, so a bit more black, for his trousers, or his knees. Now we're already onto his skin and a thin layer of Talon flesh, or Cadian flesh tone. I realised halfway through painting his hand that it was a little bit deformed by some green stuff, so I paused the video, filed it down and painted again. That's why it looks a little bit different in the next few shots. Back to that tiny chink in his trousers, I used Charadon Granite, or Storm Vermin Grey. It's a lovely earthy grey, so we'll just do a few minor highlights here. Then I balls it up a bit, because my Mechrite Red has gone very watery. It's to paint on the collar, but it leaks slightly onto his lapels, but it's easily remedied by dabbing with fingers, tissue or a dry brush. To shade the skin while this jacket is still drying, I wash it with Reichland Flesh Shade, pretty indiscriminately I must say. Aragorn's looking a little bit more lifelike now, so let's make him look a bit grimy. After all, he has travelled the length of Middle-earth by now, and I can't remember him bathing once. So Devlan Mud or Agrax Earthshade on his jerkin. Now to highlight the boots with Scorched Brown. With the dregs of my Bile Red, I dab a wash onto the collar. Now, a liberal dose of Thacker Green shades the coat nicely to give it a nice, really regal look. Now, we're onto the hard stuff. Carefully highlight the jerkin in Doombull Brown, following the horizontal contours when you're painting above the belt, and those vertical lines below the belt. Take it easy, and it always turns out relatively well if you're careful. Then to the belt for a Calthan Brown or Mornfang Brown. I also do his wrist guards and straps, any other leather straps with that. Quickly highlight that collar in Blood Red. The sword, I must admit, I don't put a lot of effort into, just a layer of bolt gun metal or lead belcher, and that's it. The hair is back to my favourite, Scorched Brown. I like using Scorched Brown a lot to give a kind of unity to all of the brown across the whole model. I do a little bit of beard here, which was surprisingly easy actually. It's certainly better than highlighting a whole face. Back to the belts now for a Graveyard Earth highlight, or Steel Drab Legion. Now onto the jacket for a Dark Angel's Green reset. After that wash earlier, I want to reset the base tone, leaving the shade in the folds. I use the new paint Gorthor Brown now for a hairy highlight. Possibly the most important bit here, so take your time. I went with a Dark Angel's Green and Snot Green 50-50 mix for a highlight. That's Warpstone and Caliban Green in new paints. Gently pick out the most raised folds of the jacket and also most of the sleeves. There's only a couple of recesses on the sleeves, leaving all the creases in darker tones. Now onto the eyes. Oh God, I hate the eyes. Give it a good go with your steadiest hand and finest brush with a bit of white, or you can just shade it and leave it unpainted. After all, if you're looking at it from head height on a miniature table, you never see the eyes anyway. Back to highlight the skin, I just reset it with Cadian Flesh Tone or Talon Flesh. And then to the pupils, I make the black really thin, take a lot of it off the brush so it doesn't go everywhere basically. It sometimes works, I must admit. Now, never forget the base. It really makes all the difference to making your model look lovely. I based it dark flesh earlier on, right at the start, and then I dry brush it XV88, sort of a earthy brown, and then I glue static grass over the worst bits of the dry brushing. Then I paint his Hero Rock grey, so that's Adeptus Battle grey, Codex grey, and then a little highlight of white, and do the same with a few pebbles from the sandy base. And voila! Aragorn, Hero of the West, fully painted. Feel free to leave any comments below and requests for any other models that I want them to paint. I might be able to get to them if I've got one. Very soon I'll be painting Tom Bombadil, so subscribe to see how.